death.
Yeah.
Okay? Death is tough to overcome. I'm not going to be biblical here, but there's a very few people that overcome death. Okay.
This is Las Vegas Real Estate Now with local real estate expert Harvey Blankfeld.
Rick, we got a whole bunch to talk about today.
10 things.
10 things.
10 things.
And what Rick brought for us, guys, this is really good. This is really cool. The 10 top escrow fails. The 10 top reasons why an escrow does not come to fruition, right?
That's right.
All right, so let's start. We may not finish this segment. Let's just start on
Let's
it.
start. These are the easy ones.
Okay, let's talk about the easy ones.
The first 4 of them are kind of procedural.
Okay.
And it's more or less emotions get involved on this.
Okay.
These are emotions. So overall, I classify these as emotions.
Okay. All right.
The first one is last minute addendums or amendments with the famous line, "Don't let the lender see that." That's a problem. So remember what we are as escrow. We are a third neutral party.
Yeah.
We're also neutral to the lender. So
Right.
whatever we know, we have to tell the lender as well.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so last minute addendums and amendments are fine.
Right.
That's part of the transaction, but we can't hide anything. So make sure that you guys understand that. And I mean that more towards the realtors who are listening.
Yeah.
Make sure you understand that as well as buyers and sellers too.
Yeah.
You know, if you're doing your own type of transaction outside of using an agent, those tend to cause a problem.
I could see that.
The other one is I put down visual inspections. Now this isn't an inspection like a home inspection. So we're the gray area. Escrow and title I talk to as one. Right?
Okay, sure.
We have our own different things. So this is more on the title end, but it affects escrow because we can't close.
Right.
We do visual inspections on properties.
Oh, okay.
There's a checklist that we go through to 10 that says how far and extensive we do. Okay. Commercial properties, we walk them all.
Okay.
So as we have a title officer go out there and walk them. Residential properties, we start with aerial views. Depending on when it's built, then we will do actual drive-by inspections. What we're looking for is active construction. Okay, because then we have mechanics liens and things like that.
Right.
So this is more mechanics liens, visual inspections. Those always kind of hurt the deal. But if you tell us that your home is not under construction, we drive out there and you have a bulldozer in the front yard digging something up, we have a problem with that closing escrow. Okay, because
I can imagine.
that affects the insurance side of it, not
Okay.
really the escrow side.
Sure, of course.
We could close escrow,
Right.
but
We need to
you're
know-
not going to like how we do it. So
Right.
we're not going to even go down that
Right.
road.
Well,
Okay.
good. Better have a good explanation for that bulldozer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next 2 are the alphabet ones, FinCEN and FERPA.
Oh, sure.
So-
okay.
FinCEN is, if you ever seen the movie The Accountant, there's a scene in there where you actually see their logo in the back. And it
I saw
says-
that.
It's the financial.
That's a great movie, by the
It's a
way.
very good
I love that movie.
Love that movie. Financial Crimes Division, and they're basically tracking money laundering.
Right.
Okay. What this affects is now that we're legally allowed to talk about it, because when it first came out, we couldn't tell anybody the rules.
Right.
Which was weird. But now
That
we
is
can
weird.
kind of tell you the rules. So companies, LLCs, purchasing homes cash over a certain dollar amount, they have to provide a lot of documentation.
Okay.
And then which is fine for most, but you get into these companies that are layered.
Oh.
It's an LLC owned by a trust, which is owned by something like,
Yeah.
you have to trace it all the way back.
Oh, my.
And when I say we're asking for documentation, down to a copy of the driver's license
Oh, wow. Okay.
and signatures of people who aren't even buying the home.
Yeah.
So it definitely causes some fails in there because they're like, I'm not going to do this. So I call this the emotional side.
Gotcha.
I'm not giving you that information. Why do you need that? Well,
Nah.
call the federal government.
Yep.
They need it.
Let's go to number 7. We already did FinCEN. Now we're doing FERPA.
FERPA. So FERPA is the...
Goes on tight, by the
thank
way.
you. Thank
Okay.
you. Foreign Investor Real Property Tax Act.
Yeah.
That's what it stands for.
Oh, I never even really knew. I just knew it was foreign stuff.
Basically, this is really good. I'm going to explain this really quick.
Okay.
A foreign individual, not a citizen here, can purchase a home providing very little documentation to the government. There's no tax, there's nothing. They can
Right.
walk in, buy the house, that's great. When they sell the house,
That's another story.
it's another story. and a lot of people don't realize this is the other story is for the person buying the house that they own, not really for them. Because
Be careful.
under FERPA, the IRS doesn't have any jurisdiction to collect money from these individuals
Right.
after the property sells because they're not citizens.
Right.
So what they do is they apply a FERPA, quote, withhold. It's not a tax yet. It's just a withhold. And
Right.
it's a percentage, either 10 or 15% of the purchase price gets withheld. And it goes to the IRS for this foreign person to file a foreign tax return.
Right.
And then they will get the difference back of what they should. The issue is that the onus of all this is on the buyer. Has nothing to do with the seller. So if they close a transaction, and there's companies in town that will close a transaction and not handle the FERPA, they are putting the buyer at risk that if that seller doesn't pay that tax, they are going to go after the buyer who just bought the home.
Yep.
And they do it all the time. They
Yep.
send them a letter saying, you owe us $80,000.
Yeah.
Okay. The buyers don't have the ability to pay it.
Right.
And now it's an issue. Okay. This usually comes up at the last minute and hurts the escrows. Number 6 on the list is probate. Probate comes up, and unfortunately, I will put a little blame on us, the title company. We cause probate sometimes, not the death side of it, but when we have to send people to probate, because there's instances where everything was fine, but the deed that they may have done is questionable in the past, and we'll ask them to go talk to a probate attorney to probate that out, to make sure that there's no errors. Probate in itself is a 6-month process.
Brutal.
And it comes up sometimes at the last minute that, hey, we don't have to do probate. We shouldn't have to do it. Well, we're insuring the property.
Yeah.
You know,
you're going to defer to the safest course.
Exactly.
If you have to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you know somebody has passed away who was on title, let us know up front.
Yeah.
We'll walk you through. We'll figure it out. We'll get you in the right hands, and we'll at least get started. Power of attorneys, number 5. Now we're getting into my favorites here.
Okay.
So power of attorney. Power of attorney basically gives you your rights to somebody else to act upon.
Right.
So like I can give you, Harvey, my ability to sell my house.
Right.
And you can sign for me. That's the short version of it.
Right.
Okay. People do this all the time when they set up a trust, or if they set up some sort of estate planning with an attorney, right? They'll set up a power of attorney. Well, what happens with this is that we don't necessarily accept those. And the reason why is because they're not specific enough to the property.
Oh.
And that's usually the reasoning. So power of attorney is number 5.
Okay.
Always comes up. And we try to alleviate that. We try to do certain things to, like, know if you need to use a power of attorney, we'll give you a specific power of attorney for the property, only for the property.
Right.
And you can come to our office, have it signed. You want to go travel and do whatever, and somebody else can act for you. We can help you with that.
Which, by the way, let me point out that as an agent, I would never be your power of attorney.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
never. My broker would never let me do that, and I wouldn't do it.
It's a bad example. Sorry.
Yeah.
This one, number 4. Typically, you have a power of attorney because you know someone's going to get ill. You know they're going to get older. They're going to need help.
Right.
And if that power of attorney doesn't work, the next thing that kills the escrow is you have to get a guardianship.
Oh.
And guardianships are court-appointed power of attorneys, basically, or a
Okay.
court-appointed person to act on somebody else's behalf and make decisions for them. And it's a legal document. It is filed with the court. It is recorded. It's out there. Those come up in searches sometimes.
Okay.
So we might actually do a search on the seller's name and find out there's a guardianship filed, but the seller's acting upon themselves. That causes a problem.
Right, because if they couldn't do the deal before, why should they be able to do it now?
Yeah, so
Okay, I understand.
That brings
makes
up
sense.
some issues, or they need guardianship. We got to get them to do guardianship,
Sure.
right?
There's a capacity issue or
There's
something.
capacity issue. So those
Okay.
are the others. So now we get into the top 3. Number 3 is unrecorded documents.
Oh boy.
I can't tell you, this happens. We get people who show up at closing that they bring their documents and from a seller say,
Right.
"Well, bring documents to closing," and say, "I've just been putting these in my drawer. Do you need any of these?" And we'll find deeds
Wow.
that were not recorded,
Yeah.
and it could have been like, "Oh, I was deeding it to my son."
Right.
Well, does your son have a copy of this? I mean,
Yeah, right.
unrecorded documents are just horrible for a real estate transaction.
I can imagine.
So unrecorded documents are the biggest thing that we start seeing towards the end.
Right.
Ones that we pick up through the whole transaction are the D's. Divorce. Okay. To any attorneys out there listening, please, when you write up your divorce decree, be specific on the property.
Clarify it.
Clarify the property, and do the other thing, have the deed signed and done and recorded. And the last one, death.
Yeah.
Okay. Death is tough to overcome. I'm not going to be biblical here, but there's
Right.
a very few people that overcome death. Okay, it's not happening in a real estate transaction. So
Yep.
if there's rules, the contract specify if somebody dies during the transaction, if the contract is valid. There's also title and escrow rules that we have to follow too.
I can
So
imagine.
if somebody passes away in the transaction, call your agent, have them call me. We'll figure out what we need. Sometimes we don't need anything.
We've
'cause it's in
actually
a trust.
closed deals when one of the parties has passed, and
Right.
because their heirs still wanted to proceed, and,
Yeah,
and that's fine. And we can do it.
Exactly.
You've been listening to Las Vegas Real Estate Now. If you ever have a question about real estate or any of the other topics we cover, just call me off air or text me at 702-203-1165. You can also check us out on the web at lvrealestateradio.com or on our handle on social media at LV Real Estate Radio.